Good evening, everyone. I have 5:30, so we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. If you'll please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll move into 1.03, approval of the agenda.
Approve the agenda. Second.
Perfect. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Unfortunately, our student member Bailey Holmes is unable to make it today. Mr. Anderson, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Yeah, so we're sorry we won't see her, but I still did want to read the nice thing that they wrote about Bailey. So even though she's not with us, and we're going to try to maybe get her back here another time, but in case we don't, still want to acknowledge the awesome contributor that she is. So Bailey Holmes is a senior at Spring Creek High School with a 3.5 cumulative GPA. She currently is the Spring Creek High School Student Body Secretary. She is a member of the high school girls softball team for the past 3 years. And her future plans are to attend Oliver Finley Cosmetology School in Boise. So sorry you're not feeling well today, Bailey. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you again another time soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And then move into item 1.05, receiving a presentation from the Adobe Middle School Hydroponics Club. What did I just say?
You said hydronics. It was
hydronics.
Close. You missed a syllable. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's add a hydro. Yeah. Let's add a syllable in the hydroponics.
We'll have every single one of the kids pronounce it correctly for you.
Perfect. If you could do that, that would be terrific.
All right. So hi, I'm Mr. Brawley. I'm a teacher at Adobe Middle School and the advisor for the Hydroponics Club. It's been a fun club to have this year, and the kids are going to tell you more about it.
I am Devereaux. This is the first year that hydroponics has been at Adobe, and it currently has 12 students, and then Mr. Brawley, our advisor. We meet once a week every Tuesday. Most of the grant is funded by the Green Our Planet. They gave us $8,000, and then Adobe Middle School gave us $2,000. We have one big commercial hydroponic unit, and then 19 small deep water culture units that the kids use. And then we have all curriculums, grades, kindergarten through 12th grade. So this is the commercial hydroponic unit. It has 216 pods, and all the students participated in planting the plants. It has 25-gallon reservoir and then a water pump.
Hello, my name is Jameson, and I'm in Hydroponics Club. This is our DWC hydroponic unit. We have 19 units and 12 pods.
Hello, my name's Elena, and each student gets a deep water unit to grow and harvest whatever they want. They can choose. And we have extra ones that go to science classes at Adobe Middle School. The commercial unit is maintained by everybody, and we all do it together.
Hello, my name's Hayden, and this is Sage.
Currently in our program, we start off by planting the seeds. Then when they start to grow, we take off the caps when they start to hit them. Those are usually for climate and such. When they get to a certain point, we're able to start trimming the plants. And at some point, we are able to take them out if we need to and pot them if we would like to continue growing, or we can just cut them off at the roots and plant new plants. Throughout this process, we also do check our HP balance to make sure that the water is fine to grow plants in, and the nutrition to make sure that the plants have enough food to thrive.
We're gonna continue to use the I'm Judy. We're gonna continue to use the deep water cultures or the small hydroponic units to give us an opportunity to learn about how hydroponic systems work. And we're going to use the plants grown in the commercial hydroponic unit to put on farmers markets to give students to give us an opportunity to plan and sustain the hydroponics program. It's been really fun to do hydroponics, and I'm learning a whole ton. And now we're going to give you a plant that we've grown.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the gift. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Thank you for the plan. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So I have a question. When you plant the seeds, it looks like they're in soil. No, they're not. It's more like a sponge.
Like a
Okay.
rock wall cube? Okay. I was curious, I'd see quite a variety of plants here. What have you found that works real well, or is there things that you found that don't work as well, or?
Mostly the bigger plants, like tomato plants, don't work super well because of how small the units are.
Yeah.
So smaller plants like chives or basil work a little bit better.
So a lot of herbs and awesome, that's awesome.
What kind of, so I was a cut flower farmer and I used to fertilize my stuff with fish emulsion fertilizer. What kind of nutrients do you add to the water so that they have nutrients to grow?
Technical, but they gave us bottles with A and B.
Oh,
So I did, it's just normal, and then they've got like Miracle Grow, so we just,
gotcha.
we're
Nitrogen.
shooting for, we have these total dissolved content meters, and we're shooting for like 1,100 parts per million.
Is that some, did these machines make it pretty easy for you, or do they, like, for example, I know maintaining the pH of the water is important. Is that something that tracks for you, or is that something you guys have to do on your own, or?
We usually have to do that on our own. We usually check.
Yeah.
Add in everything, but those don't take care of it, sadly.
So but you keep good records on it, good logs and everything? That's awesome. That's awesome. I know just a little bit about it, so I'm happy to see you guys are progressing in this. That's great. And the tomatoes, when you can't get the tomatoes going there, they come out good. So.
Great job. It takes a lot of work to get plants to this point, so you guys have done a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Well done. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, at this time, we'll move into 1.06, recognition of the November S.T.A.R.S recipients. Susan, do you want to take this, or you want me to hand it to Mr. Anderson first? All righty.
It's me. 1 second. Okie doke. Got double of everything. Okay, so we're going to, last meeting, we got to recognize a few people catching up from October, November, and we got a couple of those left. It looks like we don't have, well, we have Sherry online with us. I see her waving there. So since we got Sherry with us, I'll read hers first.
Mr. Anderson.
Oh, yes.
We should have Amanda on phone,
Oh, Amanda, okay.
I think. I thought that's what Mac had said.
All right. I don't know if Matt can confirm that. I don't see it up there. Maybe there's just, it's only showing two. Oh, she is. Okay. Okay, great. Then I will go with, I just said I'm going to go with Sherry first. So I'm still going to stick with Sherry, and then we'll go to Amanda after. Thank you for catching that. So Sherry Stevens, who you can see on the screen there, is an early childhood and special education teacher at Grammar No. 2. And she actually has, she had 3 nominations that were submitted on her behalf. And I'm going to read those to you because it is 3. It's a little lengthier than we usually see from just one, but bear with me, and it's worth it. There's lots of good stuff here to highlight how great she is. So one person, the first one who wanted to remain anonymous, said, "I would like to nominate Sherry Stevens for the S.T.A.R.S Award, having worked with her for many years as a paraeducator. Sherry has been working for the school district for 31 years. She is very supportive of her staff, supports the parents of her students, and assists them with the everyday needs of their children, which at times has included food, clothing, or just a shoulder to cry on. Sherry works hard to assure that the early childhood program is supplied with all the items needed to run a successful learning environment for all students. Sherry works well with the administration and the special education team in complying with all mandates and timelines, always keeping the family and students' needs on the forefront. Her positive outlook, flexible nature, and willingness to do whatever it takes brings out the best in all of us. I feel she is a very important part of the special education department and very deserving of a S.T.A.R.S Award in recognition for her dedication to the school district, as well as the early childhood students she has served." So that was from a coworker. Another nomination, this was from a parent who said, "Mrs. Sherry Stevens has done so much great work as an early childhood development teacher. Our family was sent to her and her class in 2020. My daughter has signs of autism, Asperger's. Mrs. Sherry was able to help her succeed with the tools she would need to help her start her journey. In the amount of time Mrs. Sherry has been with my daughter, her socializing became so much better. Mrs. Sherry takes on more than just one child who is learning their way in their early life. I don't think people nor parents see that the work she truly does is miracle work. To have the time and patience she does with so many little ones and so many little minds to try to connect with. We were lucky enough to get Mrs. Sherry for the last 3 years for one of my other children. She is not like my other daughter and doesn't have any special needs. However, she has been going and has become very successful verbalizing and expressing herself. In the amount of time she has been there, we learned she was a lefty, which was new. Mrs. Sherry helped her adapt to that, and she definitely did have a hard time, but Mrs. Sherry helped, and she didn't try to change her in any way. My daughter doesn't like to speak in groups that aren't her family, and Mrs. Sherry has helped her develop how to put her words together properly when she needs to. Mrs. Sherry certainly has done so much more than all I named. She truly is an amazing woman who gives all she can to her students. In return, her students, new and old, will never forget all the dedication that she has given. Mrs. Sherry gives parents with children who have special needs the education and stepping stones to build the foundation children will need to be successful adults in our society. No words will ever express the appreciation and love for this woman. Thank you for taking the time to read about this wonderful lady in our lives." That was awesome. And then another nomination from another parent. Still smiling up there, Sherry. All right, here we go. Sherry has been one of the most amazing teachers I could have ever met. I was fortunate to have her work with all 3 of my children, and they have all adored her and her classroom. Not only is she great at teaching, but she truly loves all the kids and her job. She's very understanding, and at one point my family had to deal with cancer in my oldest son. Sherry heard and did not waste a minute to reach out and offer help in any way she could, from her past experience to her tricks on ways to manage through it and also how to ease back into school routines during the treatments. Not only that, but I admire how much she pushes the kids and encourages them on getting through what they seem is impossible to accomplish. I've been lucky to see the start of the year with her classroom through 3 different times, and she has never lost her spark or love for her job. I love how first-time parents have to go through that separation with the kids' first day of school. It's always the same, not an easy transition, but here comes Sherry with a smile on her face and confidence to do the same thing over and over again. She will have to carry the kids sometimes as they scream and cry for their parents, and Sherry, with a smile, just keeps reassuring the parents it will get easier, I promise. Sure enough, a week later, the struggle stops and she will say, "See, Mom and Dad, no more tears." My words can never do justice to how much I appreciate her and was fortunate to have teacher Sherry for all 3 of my kids. So it was really fun being in Sherry's classroom to show the surprise on her face and the gratitude she felt, and then there were several other adults in there that were paraprofessionals working with her and those kids, and the kids all love her. Susan was there and has some experience working with Sherry, and Sean Stanton, the principal there, just has a lot of appreciation for what she does too. She's clearly very dedicated and so appreciative to her colleague as well as these parents who sent those nominations in, and very well deserving. And congratulations one more time, Sherry.
Thank you so much.
All righty, and then our other person we're going to recognize today is Amanda Dorman, who is a paraprofessional at Southside, and Amanda is on the phone with us. And Amanda was nominated by someone who wishes to remain anonymous. And that person said, since the school year began, Miss Amanda has made sure to support any and all staff that need her. She has been working with students since day one and is eager to learn more. She hasn't been afraid to ask questions or provide her input regarding the needs of the students. When other staff have changed their schedules, Miss Amanda was quick to accommodate for them. She works with as many teachers as she can. She never complains. She makes the best of any situation and always does more than is required. Whenever she has a free minute between interventions or things canceled due to activities, she still puts herself into another classroom to help as much as she can. She's also a mom and does many extracurricular activities with her kids. Southside is beyond lucky to have her because she is a one-of-a-kind and a hero to the staff that have her. I know that personally, I would love to have her with me every minute of every day, thanks to the support she provides, but will share reluctantly for the benefits of the rest of the students and teachers. We will never be able to thank her enough. And so what Amanda does, just to give some context to that, is she is a paraprofessional who does intervention work with kids from classes across all grade levels. And so she's one of these like saviors who bounces around and helps with kids who need additional support. And sometimes as a teacher, it kind of kills you that you can't give all your energy and all your effort to this kid who so desperately needs some extra attention. And so Amanda swoops in to the rescue to help with those kids and provide that additional support, and is well loved and appreciated at her school. So thank you, Amanda, for all you do, and congratulations to you as well for being one of our S.T.A.R.S recipients. And then with a very large font and bold and fingers pointing to the words, thank you, Susan, for bringing it to my attention. I want to not forget to thank our sponsors, Leanne's Floral Designs, the Rotary Club of Elko, Desert Sunrise, and Maverick Gaming for making this possible. And we really just, I'm so glad we always have this time to recognize our amazing staff. I could go on and on about the great things going on, and this is a perfect highlight. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Amanda, for your amazing contributions and for being so dedicated to our students and our schools.
Thank you very much, ladies. Anything from the board? All right, we will move into 107. This is input from public. This is a public period, or just a period, devoted to comments by the general public, if any. In the interest of privacy and due process, the public is requested to not raise personnel issues except in a legally noticed closed personnel session of the board. Comments are limited to 3 consecutive minutes. The speaker's time may not be reserved, divided, apportioned, or deferred. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under this item of the agenda until the matter itself has been included specifically on an agenda as an item upon which action may be taken. Are there any public comments? Perfect. Moving right along then, we're going to go into 2.01, receipt, review, and possible approval of the ECCTA intent to bargain.
Thank you. So both this one and the next item are kind of annual things that we have going on with our bargaining units. So ECCTA is our Classroom Teachers Association, and they have submitted this letter of intention to bargain during the 24-25 school year. And this is simply that formality. They're letting us know that that's on the horizon.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Any comments from the board or any other staff?
I'm just trying to go from memory. Is this something that we need to act on? Or it says possible action. What action would we be taking if we elected to?
It's my understanding that we're recognizing that they have the right and that they are the representative for that group. If we don't accept this, then theoretically another group could come in to propose that they are the representatives. But please correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that knows better than I.
Yeah, so it's, yes, you're not mistaken. That's correct. Just, yeah, by way of formality, also only every organization is only allowed to have one recognized bargaining unit to negotiate on their behalf. And so by formalizing whether it's ECTA or ECSO or EXA, when we acknowledge them and acknowledge their intent to bargain, we are recognizing, accepting them as the organization that will do that negotiating for that specific unit, as opposed to someone else. We don't have a bunch of different organizations knocking at the door, but this makes it clear who has the right to do those negotiations.
Okay, I'm gonna move to approve ECCTA's intent to bargain.
Second.
Probably motioned and seconded. Are there any board comments? Public comments? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. We'll move into 2.02, review receipt and acknowledgement of receipt of current information from the ECCSO, Elko County Support Staff Organization, to retain recognition as the collective bargaining representative under the terms of NRS 288 for the 2024-2025 school year, also for possible action. And my understanding is that this is not necessarily saying that they're going to come to bargain, but they're requesting that we recognize them as that unit or as that organization to represent our folks. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
If there are no questions, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
Is there a reason why they don't have a letter like the other one, like ECTA?
So this one does not include intent to bargain for the school year necessarily. It doesn't have it filed there as that. This is simply retaining the right to do collective bargaining.
Okay,
So
thank you.
I'm guessing at some point they could submit another one with intent to bargain.
Okay.
Those are they're similar actions, but not identical.
Trying to think of how to exactly to word a motion here.
I'm gonna give it a try. Okay,
Go
I
for it.
move to recognize ECSSO as the collective bargaining representative under the terms of NRS 2888 or 288 for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll second that. I think you got it.
Is that close enough?
Sounds good to the chair. Any comments from the board, staff or public? One quick question. I'm assuming that they will need to come back to us for presenting a letter a letter of intent to bargain before we can bargain. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Motion is on the table. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll now move into 2.03. This is review, receipt, and possible approval of a resolution authorizing an interfund loan to the Health Insurance Internal Service Fund from the general fund to cover the continued cash shortfall created by claims exceeding premiums. Looks like Ms. Davis is on her way up.
Okay, so the first one is an interfund loan for the health insurance fund. Whenever a fund needs cash loans from the general fund for 3 or more months, it needs an interfund loan resolution. So that's what this is, because we're advanced more than 3 months of cash.
Thank you, Julie. Are there any questions from the board? Julie, quick question. Do we do this annually?
Well, every year we haven't been advanced 3 months worth of cash. So if it's not funded to where it no longer needs an advance, then it will be an annual thing.
And that fronting comes from the board through a different loan, or how does the fronting part of it work?
The only unrestricted money we have is the general funds. It's the general fund that puts the cash.
So this loan takes the place of fronting the cash. Am I understanding that correctly?
This loan approves the general fund because a fund can't be negative. Something paid for it. So the general fund is advancing funds to insurance. This approves that.
Okay, thank you. So I apologize. What I heard was on those years where there hasn't been the 3 months fronted that we've had to do a loan. Where do those 3 months fronted come from? Where does that cash come from? Is that just the premiums that have been built up and we had enough in the bank, so to speak, in that fund?
Premiums advanced mean there weren't enough premiums to cover the claims. So the loan is in addition to premiums.
Okay. Thank you. I'm happy to entertain a motion from the board.
I move to approve a resolution authorizing an interfund loan to the Health Insurance Internal Service Fund from the general fund to cover the continued cash shortfall created by claims exceeding premiums.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Further comments from the staff or public? Comments from the board? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Vote aye as well. Motion passes. We'll move into 2.03, receipt, review, and possible approval of a resolution authorizing, let's try this again. 2.04, receipt, review, and possible approval of a resolution authorizing an interfund transfer to the Health Insurance Internal Service Fund from the general fund to cover the FY23 negative fund balance. Ms. Davis.
So the interfund loan is to cover advances of cash in addition to premiums from the general fund throughout the year. A transfer is to cover, so FY23, there'll be a negative fund balance. And then in 24, we can approve a transfer to cover that negative fund balance. So that's the distinction between the two.
Any comments or questions from the board?
I'll go ahead and,
Like we need to do something insurance wise, right?
Yes. Yes.
Do we,
This doesn't keep, like we need to do something.
any additional comments or questions? Julie, how often does this happen where we have to do a full transfer instead of just the loan?
So before in prior years, $1 million, maybe $2 million was coded to insurance expense, but that hides the shortfall. So this way we're leaving the negative and doing a request for transfer to cover the shortfall. I'm not sure we've been advanced 4 million before, not that I know of anyway. So the transfer next year might be larger unless we address the funding for the health insurance claims.
Okay. So roughly we have 1,000 employees that would contribute to the insurance.
About, we could look at, it depends how you want to go about it, because we have about 1,100 employees, but if they have additional insured dependents, you could look at, do you want to charge more for those too?
So very quick back of the napkin math, we're transferring 1.2 million, roughly 1,000 employees would mean roughly 1,200 per employee per year. So an increase of $100 per month, simple math, not looking at all of the different variables, would potentially negate the need for this next year. Is that correct?
Simple math, yes, but you have to look, if we want to keep our grandfathered status, premiums can only increase 5% a year. So we haven't increased the deductible. The deductible is still $600. National average is $1,700. We were allowed to increase premiums 5% a year. However, since 2013, they've increased to less than 8%. Let's see, district paid increased 18% since 2013. National average for health insurance expenses are up 48%. So I think part of the issue is we've been allowed to increase premiums, even just district paid, by 5%, but that hasn't happened. So that's part of why we have a larger catch up. So we have to decide, do we keep the grandfathered status? Do we not? There's gonna be more that it's not a fix the premium and we're done kind of issue. I think we're beyond that.
Okay. Is there a restriction on the amount that we can increase the deductible? Is that also 5% or is it just the premiums that's restricted to
That'd probably
5%?
be, my ideal would be to work both the 5% increase in deductible and premiums. But we're looking into options on what we can do at the moment.
Thank you. Sorry, was there another question?
I was just asking, what's the timeline on this? Like, how soon does this all need to happen in order for
Ideally,
us
we'll,
to avoid this next year?
we're halfway into this fiscal year already, so at least by next fiscal year, July 1, that would give everyone a heads up, especially we can work it into grants for 25 if we do any larger changes. I'd say at least by July 1.
Do you have an estimate as to how much a 5% increase in premiums and a 5% increase in deductible would generate? I can see that 5% individual deductible would be $30. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd have to get you the math.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments or questions?
So can we get updates on what's happening with that as we move along?
Yeah,
I'm
because
not
I
sure
think
who's-
it's been understood that that'll still be negotiated, so that goes through the board.
Okay, thank you.
And Julie, I apologize. One more thing that you had mentioned. You said that this transfer will cover FY23. We can then correct it or reverse it in 24 with the premiums, or are we out this 1.2 forever?
We're out, 23's done. 23.
Okay.
So we can just true it up, but all we can do is try to fund it to where it doesn't need a large transfer every year, or at least the transfer doesn't keep growing.
Okay. And what does this do to our ending fund balance? Are we
You'll-
below the 4%?
I stand by what I said last board meeting is that yes, this doesn't help at all.
Okay.
But you'll get an updated amount on the 19th.
Thank you. Okay, I promise folks I'm finished. Anything else?
No, I'll go ahead and move. We approve the resolution authorizing an interfund transfer to the Health Insurance Internal Service Fund from the general fund to cover the fiscal year 23 negative fund balance.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Julie. We'll move into 2.05, receipt, review, and possible approval of incentive grants from the schools of Carlin, Northside, Spring Creek Elementary, Spring Creek Middle, Wells High School, West Wendover Elementary.
Thank you. Just quick reminder that twice a year we have incentive grant opportunities for each of our schools. We do one in the fall and one first semester, one second semester. Every school is eligible for to apply and receive funds once a year, and our combined schools are eligible to receive one each semester. When I say we, I'm part of a small committee of people that reviewed all of the applications for the incentive grant. And the 6 that you have in front of you are the 6 that came through. There were several others that we either said no to or found alternative solutions as opposed to going through the grant process. So the ones you have before you were reviewed and scrutinized and have made it your way for approval as policy has us do. I can help answer any questions. Cassie's also here if she needs to chime in, but yeah.
Sorry.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
I don't have a question. One, I hope that every school takes advantage of these. So hopefully in the spring we'll have even more. I enjoyed kind of looking at what they wanted to do. I thought it was interesting, Wendover Elementary School, their project, they had the measurable objectives. I was impressed with that. So I look forward to hearing about their projects.
Yeah, that science package they have looks real neat.
Yeah.
The mystery science, I believe it was called, something like that.
Yeah.
It was fun looking through these different applications and seeing the various ways that, in creative ways that our staff is putting together different things to help out. I loved all the sports equipment for wells and the audio stuff. We had a little conversation on maybe some of the pricing, but I mean, as far as it looks, it was nice to see all the variety and looks like good uses of the funds.
Terrific. Any other comments or questions from the board? Happy to entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move that we approve the incentive grants for Carlin Northside, Spring Creek Elementary, Spring Creek Middle, Wells High School, and West Wendover Elementary.
Sorry.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. And I would like to also say thank you very much to the schools that submitted, and I hope that the remainder of our schools will submit in spring. Moving on now to 2.06, receipt, review, and possible acceptance of the bid for the Jackpot Combined School Heating Retrofit Project in Jackpot, Nevada. This has been submitted by U.S. Mechanical Limited Liability Company, as well as Mount Rose Heating and Chester. There is a low bid from U.S. Mechanical, and this would be a conditional award on the contract to bidder. Mr. Stephen, it's all yours.
Yeah, so we received 3 different bids from contractors that were local, one outside, not outside of the state, but in Reno. And we have one low bidder from US Mechanical, and we believe that it's right in line with the cost proposal that we got from the engineer. One thing to note on here is there was an alternate option that we would like to approve, and that's just expediting some of the electrical equipment. Seems as though we don't have the best heat in that building right now. It seemed like the best idea to just make sure it gets here. A lot of materials right now, it's like we're starting projects and waiting for things to come. So just to make sure the project just flows nicely.
I'm actually happy to hear that, because that was one of my first questions, was like, how long is this going to take? 20 degrees is right around the corner.
Yeah, I think it's not so much invasive. So I think by doing this, we can get some of the ductwork cut in and things like that. And then whenever the material shows up, we can install it. So it's all up in the attic. And then 2, we might be able to shift kids around in classrooms as well. So
that this will have definite impact this year.
That's the plan. Yes.
Awesome.
Any additional comments or questions?
I'm just trying to remember, like, how close did this lowest bid come into what you had estimated it would cost?
Yeah, I can jump in there. The original engineer projection was right around 145,000. So the base bid came in 12,000 over that. And then when you add in the expediting to get it in faster, then that's another 5,000 to 6,000 more. So between 8 and 11%. Yeah, somewhere in that range, depending on which option you go with.
Yep. Any additional comments or questions?
I think Jackpot will appreciate this. They've had heating problems, so.
Absolutely.
It's taken care of.
And I appreciate the alternates, because I think that gives us the idea to see where's base, how far off were we on the base, and then what alternates can we add. So I appreciate that. And I'd like to see that on most projects moving forward. If there were add-ons after the scope of work was sent out, anything that then was put on, I think should be added as an alternate so that we can see what those differences are. So thank you very much. Happy to entertain a motion.
I'll do it. I move that the board accept the lowest bid for the Jackpot Combined School Heating Retrofit Project submitted by U.S. Mechanical Limited Liability Company, including the alternate for the total of 163,067
and conditionally award the contract to the bidder, subject to the timely submission to the district legal counsel of all documents required by the instructions to bidder, including the signed contract, proof of required insurance, issued performance bond, issued payment bond, and completed project apprenticeship report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we've got a couple of seconds. It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much. 2.07 is receipt, review, and possible approval of a new policy JGCF, student welfare, student safety, safe exposure to sun. This is for possible action. We discussed this at our last meeting. And were there any changes?
Nope, received no input or feedback, so it is back as is, along with the accompanying NRS. I'm happy to explain again if you want me to, or
pleasure of the board.
Move on.
I just want to say that I've been to some PTA meetings out in Spring Creek where they were discussing PTA was trying to earn up enough money to be able to put in sunshades and different things like that. And so I think there are a few schools that'll really benefit from being able to possibly get a grant for that at their schools. So this is if this policy helps with that, I'm all for it.
Great, thank you. Any additional board comments? All right, happy to entertain a motion.
I'll go ahead and move to approve the new policy JGCF, student welfare, student safety, safe exposure to sun.
Second.
Perfect. It's been properly motioned and seconded. Are there any further comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair votes aye as well, and the motion passes. 2.08 is receipt, review, and discussion of proposed changes to policy IKF, graduation date for schools. This is the first time it's been on the agenda, so this is a non-action item.
Yep. Recently, at the last couple of meetings, because of the change to 4-day and because of the change or the way our policy read, it required a lot of board discussion and action to determine the change of date for any graduation that is not on the last day of instruction. And so it was proposed that we revisit the policy. So this is not something that has to happen every year, every time someone wants to do something on a different day. But that was about the extent of the guidance was, hey, let's just look at this again. So based off of, the conversations we had there, along with some additional conversation I had on my own with people, this is the proposed revision to such a policy. And essentially, it's pretty short. Anybody could read it, but essentially what it allows us to do is it still establishes the last day of instruction for whatever that happens to be for that school, because keeping in mind, we do have schools that we have Battleborn, for example, that has a different last day of instruction than our other schools. So whatever the last day of school happens to be is to be the default date. However, should a school wish to do a date other than the last day of instruction, they can come to me or whoever the superintendent is and give a proposal for moving that. And it can be up to 2 days on either end of that last day of instruction.
Perfect, thank you. Any additional comments or questions? Any directive back towards staff?
I was one of the ones you spoke with on this, and I like how this come out. The only thing I had was as a second thought is if we did want to do maybe 1 day prior and 2 days post, just to keep it from Wednesday to Saturday, based on a Thursday graduation date. But that did make me think of something too with Battleborn. What is their typical final day?
Yeah, so I looked into Battleborn as well. They've only been around a couple of years at this point, but this is their 3rd year, I believe. And their graduation has always been on a Saturday, following either instruction ending on a Thursday or a Friday. So the 2 days after has been consistent with what they've done so far. So it wouldn't cause a problem for their schedule.
That would be the only input I would offer, is maybe to cut the Tuesday off, to make it Wednesday through Saturday. It seems like those are the days when we had the discussion a couple meetings ago that the consensus among the board, although it wasn't voted, it seemed like those were the days that were discussed mostly. I don't know if there would ever be a reason for a Tuesday. You never know, though.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't really restrict, but that just my 2 cents after we spoke.
Anything else?
Yeah, excuse me. So I still want to keep the board on the policy. So the idea was just to add that to the end, something to the extent of Board of Trustees retains the right to overturn, change said date, just so we're not skirting what we previously had. So I know that would be an outlying issue, but at the same time, I'd rather not continue to defer things that we're in charge of.
So I guess that's what that is the major change in this policy is that it would take it out of the board's purview as it would put it in mine, I guess. So if you do want it to be for the board to approve, then it would be superfluous to have me in there as a.
Well, no, I'm just saying, so you would start, right? So it would start out, you guys would take care of it. And then if there was some outlying issue that the board needed to take up, we would still be part of that policy. That's all I'm saying. Like,
okay.
So basically we'd be like, hey, at that point, we know that it'd be some major issue, but at least it's part of the policy itself.
Where the
Seems as
board
though-
could request it be considered on an agenda or something like that, but not standardly on the agenda. Is that what we're getting at?
Yeah. So you guys would have the option, so we would avoid the issues that we've had this year.
Mhm.
You guys would be able to, as a standard and policy, be able to make those decisions. And if there was some sort of
you're getting a lot of outcry from a community, and then you could say, okay, well, let's
then it falls
bring
back
that
to
one up, but we don't have to pass
the
the other ones
policy
through.
then it falls back to the board at that point.
Okay, all right.
Not like, hey, we need to put our nose in like, unless it becomes a problem is what I'm saying. So
I have a compromise, possibly, is we put in that 3-day window, or 4-day, I guess, because you have your default day, 1 before, 2 after, and make that automatically. I mean, I personally, I don't see a problem with those days, but in anything outside of those days would be a board approval. So basically then we would just be modifying the existing policy. It would still require board approval to change. We would just open the window from 1 day to 4, where it's a standard graduation.
For mine was just for the default of, right? So if we have an impasse, we have some outcry, something to that extent. It still falls back to the board.
I think Mr. Anderson's suggestion of consent agenda would work well. Make the decision that you need, throw it in on the consent agenda. That way we see it. And that way we also are aware of any changes, so that if somebody in the community says, hey, when is the graduation? Oh, that's right, it changed on this, for this one. At least then we're seeing it. And if there is a concern, we can always bring that back to say, hey, we're going to pull that out of consent and have that discussion. I think that would solve, Jeff, your concerns as to what days they fall on, but still allow the board to have that final approval.
Well,
does that work?
Part of my concern was that we put a lot of effort into a discussion that ended up not
having an outcome change.
Yeah. So if we're going to have that discussion, it should matter. If we're not, then we need to change this policy.
I agree with Josh in that, frankly, the legislature, I can't say that word I was thinking, has hamstrung us as a board in many things that the public thinks that we have direct control over, and we don't. We have direct control over the superintendent. I shouldn't say control, but direct influence over the superintendent. And then operations, there's all under his purview. So giving away one more thing of what we have a responsibility to do, I think is where Josh may be coming from.
Yeah, my compromise is you guys set those dates.
Yeah.
And then if it becomes an issue.
It's a significant difference still from what we currently have, in that what we currently have is every single little thing needs to come through you. And sometimes it's onerous and tiresome to simply just have things go before you because that's what it says in policy. It's got to come before us, right? And so if there are things that we know can just be approved by other designees, right? Which I am as the board. The board has me as a designee essentially for almost every decision that could possibly be made for the school district as far as operations go. And so I see what you're getting at, and it's a way to still have those things go through without having to scrutinize every little decision that's been made. But also, should something like, because sometimes you don't expect something to be an issue, right?
Yep.
And we think, hey, no big deal. Principal wants to do this. School community seems to be in favor, and superintendent says it's okay.
Yeah.
But then you get lambasted with emails and outcry and considerations that weren't previously, maybe taken into account. And so you have some sort of safety net for trying to make a good decision, which I don't think that's a problem necessarily. Cool. All right. So
I personally liked what Matt was saying, consent agenda idea.
yeah. And I appreciate the credit for that, Matt. I actually wasn't saying to do that, but then when you said it, I was like, yeah, it's a good idea. I didn't know I said that.
Maybe in my medicine addled state, I heard something that you didn't say, but yeah, we'll give you credit.
Appreciate it. Okay. And so as far like any other feedback on because right now it's 2 days on either end, is there any other feedback on Jeff's comment with 1 day before and 2 days after? Does that seem?
We can't technically take formal action on this, but I think giving
Correct.
direction to the staff would be easier now, and then we can just vote on it cleanly next time. But if we want to have that formal discussion, we can at the next go round. Okay.
Okay.
I'm hearing no other further directions, so we will let staff work on it. Thank you. Moving on to 2.09, this is receipt of quarterly update reports. We're going to be hearing from Mr. Cody Krinka and Mr. Mac Robinson this evening.
Good evening. I provided the board with what I have. It's all in your admin. It's available online to you, so that you have, since I'm going to be rambling off a bunch of numbers, you have it available to you. Coincidentally, along with my quarterly report to you, we have to do a class size reduction quarterly report every quarter. I think in the 1st of October, you were provided with our class size projections of what variances we would need. Last year we did that in July because it was due August 1st, which didn't make a whole lot of sense because our kids start in September. So that's why they made it due in October this year, which also kind of doesn't make a lot of sense because my updated ones due at the end of November. So that's the numbers I'm going to provide to you. As you can see, our regular class size ratios, we're not under that plan. NRS allows counties with populations of under 100,000 to be under the alternative plan, which we are. Kindergarten, that's 16 students for every teacher. First grade's 22-1, second's 22-1, third is 22-1, fourth, fifth, and sixth are 25-1. Those ratios don't include fifth and sixth graders that are in middle school. So we would include the sixth graders at Flagview, but not the sixth graders at Spring Creek Middle because those are not in an elementary school. As you can go down, you can see our ratios district-wide are actually really good. The only one that is above district ratio would be the kindergarten one. In district-wide, we're at 18-1. Everything else is under that. So then the question is, why do we have variances? How variances work is each school, let's say you have 75, we'll go 75 fourth graders in 3 classes, or 76. So then I would have to apply for variance because we're 1 over, all right? And that would be the average daily enrollment. So back when we did this in October, I just took how many kids were in each class and I projected. Obviously, all the kids don't come every day. We wish they would. So the average daily enrollment is how many kids show up every day. So this will fluctuate, not based on the enrollment on the teacher's grade book, but how many kids show up. And when we take that average and then we report that, and that's where you get the numbers. Last year in May, we had 24 variant requests. A school can have more than 1 variance request. So if they have a variance request in that 3rd grade and they have 1 in kindergarten, that school would have 2. So it's not just 1. So some schools, I think the most we have right now is 3. There's some schools that don't have any. Last year, in May of 23, we had 24. And right now we're doing much better at only 18. So much better. In my opinion, a couple of reasons. First, we do have fewer students, like 100 or so fewer students. That helps, but it wouldn't. The other thing that helps a lot is our principals, they meet, and when they do individual variances, like if my kid wants to variance to another school, they try to work those out to make sure that it's equitable among the attendance areas. And as late as like the second week of August, principals were looking at their numbers and reassigning teachers to different grade levels, which is not the best thing because those teachers may or may not have been working on their classes all summer, but it may have been best for the kids because, hey, we just had a huge influx of fifth graders. Our numbers are low in second grade, so they may have asked a second grade teacher to teach fifth grade at the last moment. So that would be one of the reasons that these numbers have also gone down. Are there any questions on this? I do this every quarter, so if you need.
I'm just curious on the ratios. I know it shows we're really low, but how much is that skewed by, like say, smaller schools that have just 2 or 3 kids versus do we have, and then we have our populated areas. Are we still in good shape there?
I don't include Ruby Valley, Montello, those ones I don't, because that would really skew the situation. But I do include Jackpot.
Okay.
But keep in mind some of those other schools like Jackpot, they combine classes where you might have some for one teacher teaching second grade and then a few first graders as well.
Right.
And that's taken into consideration in here. So it's a good question, but those 4 schools aren't in there.
Do we have any areas in the district in some of the more populated schools where the ratio is too high, or are we pretty much in line?
It's not the most popular. There's one school where our kindergarten class is really large. In kindergarten, we don't know what's going to come until they're there because,
right.
And then so quite often that's the trickiest one. I mean, we just go with what we've done in the past. When that happens, then we have to make the decision. Those principals have to make the decision to split those classes and find another teacher, or we keep that class together because kindergartners, hey, this is my teacher. It's a new environment. And then we maybe add a paraprofessional to that class, and then we just have a larger class. And that's what we've done in the kindergarten class that I'm thinking of.
But overall, we're in good shape there then.
Yep, just that one class. And there's another 5th grade class, but then we keep track of this, and this helps us with our hiring, I want to say, but what jobs we place next year, which ones we fill. We can gauge what we have based on class size, and then we talk to teachers or principals and say, well, you're one heavy in your elementary or 1st grade. If no one retires, we might have to transfer to the same attendance area, or they need to move up with that grade level, depending on those types of things.
That just got me thinking. I know we have a lot of permanent subs that are teaching classes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever give a lower ratio to those permanent subs and a higher ratio to the more experienced teachers to try and help that situation out? So you have less kids in the classes with permanent subs?
Yes and no, and thank you for going right into my next topic. That's up to the principals. The principals know what's best. I know a lot of times when we talk about substitutes, and that's why I wanted to bring it to your attention, that sometimes we think that they may be a lesser teacher. And I don't want to say that because it's not true. And I just said it, but the reality is those teachers, a lot of their peers, their coworkers don't know they're just a sub. They think it's a regular licensed teacher in the building. They're participating in all the groups. Many of them do all the spirit weeks. They have clubs that right there alongside, they just don't happen to have a license. So segueing into the next one, we have 74 of those in the district, which is quite a few. We asked them to let their principals and I know how many of them are on the pathway to being a teacher. Of those 74, 53 are actively taking classes to be a teacher. 53 are actually taking them. Of those, 19 are graduating and will be licensed by June of 2024. So it's quite a few. Also, of that 74, 6 of them are critical needs substitutes. Why they're not regular elementary critical needs is because these are secondary. We don't have critical needs in the secondary level unless they're SPED. The other option is we do have some that are elementary that don't qualify for the regular elementary critical needs designation because they may have received a buyout. So they don't get that higher stipend, higher pay. So a lot of times when we hear 74, kind of freaks us out a little bit, but they are good teachers, and they're doing a good job, and they're doing a good job for the kids. And whether or not, to answer your question, if they have smaller classes, is up to the principal, because some of these long-term subs are really good. And in fact, last year we had a long-term sub. One of these critical needs was the lead teacher for a student teacher. So they're on the critical needs, which makes sense. That person's been teaching over 30 years, so it was perfect for that mentorship.
Is there anything extra being done to help support those people?
The subs?
Principal?
The subs, yeah. Ray and Candace probably talk about it a little bit more, but we have substitute classes. There are things through various colleges, whether it's UNR, UNLV, and of course GBC. They have various pathways that help the substitutes, because if you're talking about the other ones, the other ones that aren't going there, they can take classes and have classes that we provide, and we do provide a stipend. But once again, it's just getting them to take it.
But we don't have anything like some kind of mentorship where, you know, we're going to help you through this year because.
We do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we do, like you said, through the RISE program. Sorry, I thought you meant from the district. Yeah, each school has their mentors through the RISE program. These subs, if they're brand new, they go through RISE, and they have that, like Ray just said, through the mentors through the RISE program, and then you're just regular PLCs and mentorship through them.
Okay.
I will say just a shout out because I had a friend that took the substitute class, and she texted me that she loved it, the substitute teacher training class, that she thought it was really awesome.
That's good to know.
So Cody, go ahead.
I was going to ask regarding these 19 long-term substitutes that are going to be completed in their programs next summer. Are we doing everything we can to make sure that they stay with us?
Yes, hopefully. Obviously they're here because they're already in a position, but I don't want to tie the hands of the principal that may or may not want that substitute for that position. Some of these people are graduating now. I think I can think of 4 that reached out to me in the last week about that. So all these positions, all 74, will be posted come January 1st. So at January 1st, once they're posted, just like any position, they will apply along with anybody else, because maybe I don't want to be at the school I'm at anymore as a long-term sub. Maybe I want to go over here. That way it gives them an opportunity to still go over there. And then if they're licensed, then we can offer them a full contract in mid-year. And we have done that in the past. So that's typical. And for that reason, we don't want them to find another job somewhere else.
Yeah, if there's anything we can do personally or as a board to help, I'm speaking to help retain those 19. We'd love to hear it. So keep it up, please.
Well, that's mostly on the principals, giving them the credit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can I also ask, and you can explain to me what the reason behind it is it possible for us to take, so instead of a long-term sub, to take like 2 retired licensed teachers and have them split the job, if you will? Like, you know what I mean? Like they'd go back and forth. So we'd
have 2
certified teachers that we've already had in our district, but now they're retired, but they're willing to job share.
We did that in a critical needs position last year for special ed, where people are like, I'm retired, I don't want to work full-time, I don't work half-time. We can make those types of arrangements. Most people don't want to, because if they're not, they don't meet a certain number of hours, they may not meet the benefits. Obviously, if they're retired, that might not be a concern of them. The other thing, there's so many vacancies that with this group of people, we don't necessarily want the job share. And the fact that we don't have enough people, we're going to have you take your entire class. We've had discussions with the state about pushing, which is what we kind of do, to get a way just to pay student teachers. As many times when I've been in here, most student teachers have jobs before they're done student teaching. So what would maybe make us different is if we got them here and paid them as student teachers. That'd be recruiting for them rather than go to Washoe, so to speak, and work for free. You could come to Elko. And I think we talked about that with the Robert Noyce, I love saying that, scholarships and trying to get student teachers here and try that route. So we could do that if there's people that are interested. Obviously, we need so many that we usually try to talk in the full-time positions. Did I answer your question?
Sort of. I don't see why the reason why we wouldn't do that if we have two certified teachers that are willing to split something versus having a substitute teacher that maybe isn't going for their license or whatever.
Yeah, and we have once,
Wouldn't.
and like I mentioned, we've done that. It's just hard finding those types of people.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've done that.
Okay, thank you.
Cody, going back just a minute to the variances, is there an impact to us having variances? I mean, what does that really mean from the state? Obviously, we want to not have variances, but it's not like the state is penalizing us, correct?
Correct. Not that I know of. It's more of a reporting procedure to see if what we're doing is correct. And we have to give reasons why we're putting variances. Is it because we can't find people? Is it because the building's too small? Is it because of budget constraints? Those types of things. So they have an idea why we're not meeting the plans that they've set forth.
Okay, so 2 months ago, we had 18 variances. It would be fair to say that we had a minimum of 18 different classes that didn't meet that ratio at that point in time.
18 different grade levels.
Grade levels. So if, for example, Spring Creek Elementary has 3 classes that are all over by 1, that's still only 1 variance.
If they're in the same grade.
In the same grade. Okay, terrific. Thank you.
If they have 3 classes and 2 in first grade and 1 in second, that'd be 2 variances.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
All right, moving along. The absence comparison. I know that one of the reasons that was brought forth to this board about having the 4-day was we would reduce absences. I made a mistake and didn't put whose absence was on this. This is staff absence, not student. This is staff absence that's been provided with you. Staff is everybody from the custodians to the superintendent on here. So that's about 740 fewer absences in the same time frame as was last year. Keep in mind, we still have people that do work 5 days. There's a couple of schools that have their custodians that work 5 days. And also keep in mind on the 29th of September, we had that professional development day. And so we still had absences that day. But still, we still had 740 absences. I know a lot of people were concerned about that, so I thought you might find that statistic interesting. The other thing that's not on here, critical needs designations. The only one that's about to expire is our substitute one. The substitutes it was sub bus drivers, teachers, custodians. That's the one that'll expire at the end of this year. The other ones, they were here for 2 years, so we'll keep doing that. Keep in mind that critical needs designations are district-wide. They're not specific for a school. Now you might say, well, what about Hawaii? Hawaii was done at the recommendation of the state superintendent's office. Otherwise, it's district-wide. So if we're missing a Spanish teacher at Elko High School, typically, unless told to, we wouldn't say we need a critical needs position in Spanish at Elko High School. We would designate that district-wide. How I'll do that, or how we've done that, what I do is go through all those vacancies, see how long they've been vacant. I'll go through last year's and previous year's applicants, see if there's any applicants that qualify as viable candidates, viable meaning license. And then after that, we'll see how many transfer requests we have within the district also for that. And then I'll take it to the superintendent. And then if he deems necessary, I'll bring it to you.
Did I hear correctly? The critical needs for substitutes ends at the end of the year. Is that calendar year or academic year?
Fiscal year. Yep.
Okay, so it's not like we have 20.
It won't be on the next agenda.
days.
Nope.
Okay.
No, it's still good.
Great.
So those subs and that would fall for those 6 long-term subs that are critical needs, those types. And then we also have a lot of subs that aren't long-term, whether it might be the bus drivers or whomever that sub a lot, whether for whatever reason, and that way it doesn't impact their PERS if they reach the specific amount, and I don't know, it's like 27,000 now. Something like that.
Great, thank you. Any additional comment? Well, Mr. Krink, are you finished with your report?
Yeah,
should
I am,
ask.
sorry.
All right, great. Any additional comments or questions for Cody? All right, thank you, sir.
Turn it over to Mac.
Mr. Robinson.
Well, it's been a few months since I've been up here, so I'm just gonna want to go over the E-rate projects that we have, and then the other projects that we have going on in the IT world. So since I haven't been in front of you guys for a while, I want to remind you with the E-rate projects what Category 1 and Category 2 projects are. So Category 1 projects are the projects that connect site to site, like it would connect Spring Creek High to central office. It connects sites together. And Category 2 projects are campus related, so they're Spring Creek High School, Elko High School, central office. They're campus related. They don't span between our campuses. Right now we have a site or a project going on at Flagview. It should be completed by the end of the year. The fiber's installed. We're just waiting on them to come and connect both ends. The end here is central and up at Flagview. And that'll allow us to get rid of the radio waves or the radios that we have in between here in Flagview and get a more reliable connection. Some of the other Category 1 projects we have are Montello, Sage, and Transportation, both in Elko and Spring Creek. So right now Montello's on HughesNet, and getting them onto fiber will be a huge upgrade. Sage is a microwave connection from Sage to Spring Creek Middle School, and getting a better fiber connection will be more reliable. So I'm trying to get that one done. And then Transportation, both in Elko and Spring Creek, are both on radios, and I'm trying to get them off of the radios. Ruby Valley, Mound Valley, and Oahe, they are already in progress. They've been awarded, and we're actually doing that project in conjunction with the state. It's a state RFP that was awarded to Zito. And a note I want to make on that one is Oahe is for the new construction, the new building, not for the existing one. Any questions on Category 1 stuff? Once they're all completed, we should be off the radios. Everything should be good. Our bandwidth will be good at every site. So they're our last ones, kind of just cleaning them up. Now, Category 2. In our Category 2 funds, we have about $1.2 million left in that E-rate funding. So every project we do, we have to pay 30% of, and then the 1.2 million is what we can draw from them. So we have about 1.2 million left in that fund. Once we do this switch upgrade for Spring Creek Middle School, High School, Elko High School, and Adobe, that'll be about 350,000 out of that pot. And the other thing I'm trying to do with those 4 schools in Category 2 is replace the multi-mode fiber that's there. That multi-mode fiber will only run at a gig in between network cabinets. If we get single mode, it'll future-proof us, and we'll be able to have much more bandwidth in between, on campus. The switch order is still waiting on USAC approval. Once we have it, they'll ship the order. We're just waiting on the paperwork to finish up. Any questions on Category 2 stuff? No.
Matt, just very briefly, with the Cat 2 and switching between multi-mode and single mode. On new construction, can that be utilized? Because I understand that that was also one of the things that we were looking at with the Spring Creek Food Science Lab, was switching that. Can that fund be utilized? So for example, if switching between those two increases by $100,000 for the project, can the budget be supplemented by $100,000 from the E-rate funding? Does that make sense?
When we do any new construction like that, we will put single mode in. Are you asking, can we use like capital improvement funds to supplement that 30%?
Vice versa. My understanding is that one of the cost increases for the Spring Creek Meat Lab, the food lab, came from switching from, it was budgeted out or built out or architectured out or engineered out, whatever it was, as multi-mode. And because like you said, we want single mode, that was a price differential that impacted that final bottom line. So if there is an impact for that, we're not seeing that that's an impact because we're only looking at, we have $3 million to spend on this. It's now 3.1. If that 0.1 was because of the mode switch, can the E-rate come in to say, yes, our budget was 3, this was an alternate, were you paying for that alternate with E-rate? Does that make sense now?
Yes, but I usually only do that with like category 1 funds. If we're building a new building, we'll use category 1 funds to get the fiber to that building. Category 2, don't quote me on this. I assume we could if we needed to, yes.
Okay, thank you. Just things to keep in mind as our pool keeps getting smaller. Thank you.
Yes. And then right now I have all my guys going out and doing inventory, getting ready for just our yearly laptop rotation that goes through. So once inventory finishes up, I'll be able to get those numbers and move forward with that project. So.
Is the fund that you're talking about, is that only available to us for a certain amount of time and then it's gone? Or is that something that we have that we can use to?
It gets decided how much we get every 5 years. Once that fund rolls over, then we get a new amount, but it may not be what we have now. It depends on a lot of things, mostly free and reduced lunch numbers. So.
When does that 5-year term end for the current fund?
We got 2 more years.
Okay, great. Additional comments or questions from Mr. Robinson?
The fund, so what the 1 point, whatever, that is, we need to keep that for another 2 years then?
We can use that for another 2 years, yes. I've done projects on it.
No more is coming in like for the next 2 years.
No, like it's not physically here, right? We have to request to use it and we have to pay 30% of whatever project we do.
But we don't have it. You're not getting any more funds into that pool. You're not going to be allotted more next year.
No.
Okay. All projects for the next 2 years need to be within that 1.2. We still have to request them, all the things.
Right.
Okay.
And then once the 5 years is over, that 1.2 goes away and we get a new amount, whether we use it or not. So.
Thanks, Mac. Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
Anything else from the board? We appreciate your time. Thank you, sir.
Yep.
All righty, at this point, then we will go to 3.1. This is our consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, it's been motioned and seconded. Are there any comments? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. We'll move into 4.01, report from the NASB Director. Mr. Jeff.
All right, lots to cover. We just finished our conference this past weekend, Lake Las Vegas for NASB for our yearly event. It was awesome. We had some great speakers. I'll kind of go through the first two. We had Sean Buchanan. He's from Iowa. He's a superintendent at a district there, and what a speaker. He was the first one, and I don't know how many commented on what a tough act he was to follow because he kept us all engaged and laughing, and he was really good. Just a couple excerpts though from he talked about his methods of TLC, and that's an acronym he uses for tenacity, loyalty, and commitment. Those are all pretty self-explanatory in how we work as a board. But he also talked a lot about emotions, and decisions and how they are unfortunately connected sometimes. You have to try and take emotion out of your decisions. And when you're tempted to, you need to remember to respond with kind enthusiasm. No matter what, whether it's a positive or negative situation, respond with kind enthusiasm. He also talked about some really good ideas on how to build relationships with peers, coworkers, clients, and that's by just manufacturing interactions, finding ways to get out of your way to manufacture a way to be able to speak with someone and to develop a rapport and build a bond. So those were some really, really good suggestions. But that one especially I thought was something to think about in manufacturing interactions. And it was a good opportunity to practice throughout the weekend too. I was able to meet with quite a few people and talk about some stuff. And then this second speaker of the first day was Richard Culata. Am I saying that correctly? Culata. His was fun mainly because we got to see pictures of CJ as a young man. They've been acquainted since birth, basically. And he really had some good analogies of he specializes in online digital education. If you could help me to tell me what his title was with the he was appointed by President Obama as
So at one point, he was like the deputy director of education for the Obama administration, but right now he's the CEO of the foremost instructional technology company in the nation, which is S.T.A.R.S. And they're about to complete a merger with one of the foremost kind of teacher development organizations called ASCD. And so he's right at the head and leading that effort for transformation in both education technology and instruction across the whole nation.
Well, he was a great speaker. We also, as part of our package and going down, got the book. If any of you guys want to borrow it, he wrote a book on protecting kids in a digital age. But a couple of things that I got from his weren't necessarily just related to digital. But the first one was like figuring out ways to do things. And he used to riding a bicycle as an analogy where we all can remember, like myself, is you had training wheels to start. And it's kind of counterintuitive to what you're really trying to do, because steering and stuff on a bicycle isn't a problem. It's getting your balance. But by putting training wheels on, even though you think you're helping, it actually prolongs the process, when now you start to see a lot of younger kids will have gliders or you'd see a bicycle without pedals. And so they can scoot around with their feet, and that really gets them learning balance right away, and they can learn faster. So, but the point of that being is that always be thinking for different ways to get from point A to point B, because while you think you might be doing, there could be a shorter way that's going to get you the desired result much faster. He also talked about positivity online, and with a lot of different places you go, you'll see rules, whether it's in the classroom, but they're all negative. It's all don't do this, don't do that. He provided an example of a online policy that a district had that had 30 rules, and every single one of them were don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. And so it was like he pushed leaning more towards positivity and the things you could do. And instead of worrying about cyberbullying, worrying about making cyber friends, the right kind of friends. But and then another thing he talked about, which I love this in my personal life, because I have this problem with my 12, almost 13-year-old, is he's online all the time. And it's not so much as giving the time restrictions, if you're putting restrictions on your kids for online use, it's more about the value of what they're looking at. So, if they're playing Candy Crush, 5 minutes might be too much. But if they're doing something valuable, learning a language or studying education or anything of that, the value of that is huge. So don't fall into the trap of necessarily setting a time limit, like you have a half an hour on your device. It really comes down to what they're doing, whether it's, like say, playing Candy Crush or learning Spanish or something. So that kind of wrapped up day one. And I should just pull out my agenda here. Real quick. And I did skip over the joint board meeting. I sorry, the first day. Not too much to report there. We basically just went over some finances. And NASB's in great shape. Let's see. And then next, I went to a great presentation. I believe, Susan, you were with me in this one for the balanced governance model. And we had the Washoe County School District Superintendent, Susan Enfield, got up and did a presentation. And this is something, if anybody would like
Jeff,
to take a look at.
Can I just interrupt you?
Sure,
It
go
was
ahead.
the school board president, not their superintendent. Their superintendent wasn't there.
She was
she's not
supposed to
there.
be, but then
She was,
didn't come.
I got it, got
Yeah,
it.
she
I'm
didn't
sorry.
come.
I
Yep.
read it off the front.
There you go.
Yeah, it was Beth Smith that was there. And she was there along with Thomas Alsbury. And they talked a lot about informed oversight. To understand what's going on and be able to provide knowledgeable feedback to the public is one of our responsibilities. We need to feel empowered to set goals and support support governance policy and protocol that reinforces informed oversight. And one of the things they took us through was a company that they're using to be able to actually do self-evaluations on as a board to see how you're participating and whether it's constructive, destructive, and so on. And it's something actually that a few of us talked about that would be really good to look into and possibly retaining that company to look at our own board here. Moving on, also attended a hospitality conference, or what do you call it, a hospitality class, and talked about Claire. I'm just trying to remember her last name, but she's a rep with Aptigee, and that's a company that we use that does all our online stuff, our website, our apps that we just released. Anyway, it was a great meeting about talking about influence, how people think, feel, and act. And one of the things, a huge thing that I got out of her class was that you cannot take a picture of how you made my heart feel. As it goes in hospitality, you can copy recipes, you can copy layouts and interiors and colors and designs and things like that, but you cannot copy the way you treat people. And she just stressed things that make it memorable, make it personal, and don't be reasonable. And the don't be reasonable actually kind of threw me because that at first didn't sound right, but what that meant was to actually go over the top. She told a story about a family that had left, their kid had left the treasured teddy bear at a Ritz-Carlton hotel, and how they had called back and asked, hey, can you ship that to us? And they worked out the details on that. But the Ritz-Carlton was a little unreasonable. They went way over the top, and they took pictures of this teddy bear, laying in the spa with cucumbers on its eyes. And they had it sitting in the security desk watching surveillance, and it was out laying by the pool. And they, not only did they send the kid his bear back, but they packed all these pictures in and a couple treats and everything. And it was just kind of going over the top, but we can use those same concepts in our district. One of the things she also stressed was you want to be the favorite of something. You can't always be the best. And I can argue with you as to what's the best, but if it's your favorite, I can't argue with you what your favorite is. So if you can find a way to make students your favorite, or be the favorite teacher, be the favorite school, it's a good goal to go towards. Moving on from that one, we did some more balanced governance. Let's see, hospitality. We talked a little bit I went to a class on the superintendent evaluation, and they had some really good ideas in there. I may save that for when we actually go back to look on that, but one of the things in there they stress is maybe instead of doing individual evaluations, it is a board evaluation, and we should come up with a single score rather than have our own. It should become to a consensus. And one of the ways we could accomplish that would be by doing it in a workshop format rather than during an actual board meeting. So that may be something we may want to look at. We had some good keynote speakers to finish up, but the last thing I'll leave you with is training that I was looking at. You can go to the Nevada Association of School Boards website, and I actually printed out, if anybody's curious as to what they have, all the trainings that we've gotten credit for. I would also urge you to, if anyone's interested, to get with Rick Harris, the executive director, and have him get you on the path for the certified public official certification. Requires 13 different areas, which a lot of those, all these breakouts that we go to are kind of geared towards that. And then you need 55 hours overall of professional development training. So, and all that information can be found on the NASB website, or if you'd like to reach out to me and I can fill you in some more on that. I believe and then moving forward, the next NASB meeting is going to be March 15th in Virginia City. I'm sure there'll be some training involved with that too, if anyone's interested, and I'll keep you posted on that. But that is my recap for the yearly conference. I feel like it was time really well spent, and I enjoyed visiting with everybody and meeting with everybody there. I feel like I learned a lot. So, and if anybody has any questions or anything, I'd be happy to answer that.
Thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Mr. Durham, our NASB rep? All right, we're moving to 4.02, board comments. Who wants to go first? Ms. Susan?
Sure. I won't repeat everything Jeff said because he wrapped that up, but I'm kind of geeky with going to conferences and stuff, so I felt like I learned a lot. Just a couple things that stood out for me was the balanced governance. And I don't know how this all works with the board and stuff. I'd really like, I don't know if permission's the right word, but I'd really like to look into getting that gentleman to see what it would take to work with us. Just talking with Washoe County, it wasn't, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to have my back to you. It seemed like it was a relatively inexpensive deal to work with, and it just, they have learned so much and have grown so much, and it's taken them, I mean, they're still doing it, but it's been like 9 years, but they have really, I think, moved forward with this gentleman. So that was a takeaway for me. And the other takeaway, there were tons, but two biggies were the balanced governance and the improving the value of the superintendent evaluation, which obviously don't want to change midstream because that's not fair to Superintendent Anderson over there. But after the evaluation, I think we should have a working meeting to revamp that. Like Jeff said, so I won't go any farther with that one. And then, like Jeff said, oh, the opening speakers were just so good. But those were like my main takeaways from the conference. It was well worth it, in my opinion. And I enjoyed spending time with those that were there.
Thank you, Susan. Additional board comments?
I'll share one thing that I took away from this training that we had. I feel like I came away this year with a lot more kind of inspiration and just a lot more help than I did the first time we went in Tahoe, probably because that was so new to everything. It was a whirlwind, but I felt like I got more out of this one. And the one thing that I kind of stuck with me is the way that school boards can influence student outcome and student achievement. It's if they have vision and goals, and then they are leaders in the district and tie the superintendent's evaluation to those district or to the vision and goals of the board, that's how they can affect student outcome and achievement. And so it's just really got me thinking of a lot of different ideas that I have that I'm gonna start looking into. It was really good to be able to, since we can't really talk to each other outside of open meeting, it was really good to talk to other seasoned board members that have a lot of experience and kind of pick their brains about questions that I have and concerns that I have in our district and hear what their thoughts and ideas were on different things. And so it was really beneficial for me.
Thank you, Brooke. Any additional comments?
I have one more. I wanted to piggyback on completely off from the conference, but item 2.06, the heat upgrade for Jackpot, that is capital improvement fund, correct? To come from that. So I just want to remind the public that that's another $160,000 that's coming out of the capital improvement fund that's still rapidly shrinking. We are going to need some help with that. So for anyone listening, if we can get some capital improvement funds going, because these things come up, it's not cheap to run these schools at all.
Thank you. Any other board comments? All right, briefly, Cassie, thank you for informing the board when the board docs changes. So for the public, when we get notice of a meeting, then every change after that, we get an additional email that says board docs has changed. Sometimes there's a whole bunch, sometimes there's not so many, but oftentimes we don't know exactly what changed, and a simple word change gives us an email. So Cassie, I appreciate you giving us that heads up. Our next meeting currently is scheduled for the 19th of December, which is going to be a special audit meeting, as Julie alluded to. Probably pretty dry stuff. Anybody that wants to join, of course, you're welcome to, but because I don't think we're going to have very much attendance on that, I'm going to take this time now to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays to our teachers and staff, to our families, our students, and to our communities. With that, we'll go ahead and close out board comments and move on to 5.01, Superintendent Matters.
Thank you. I'll keep mine pretty brief too, and just echo the sentiments of really great conference. That was my third one I've been to, and you know, just from the content of the conference, it was for me by far the most productive one, I thought. Very good content of classes, and similar to a lot of your comments, I really appreciated the balanced governance one. I think it's funny too, the things we each took away. We all went to essentially the same thing at different times and had different takeaways. One of the things that I really appreciated about it was that session started out very much talking about the importance of board members, almost maybe one of the most important possible elected positions that still exist within our government today is our local school board trustees, and the direct impact they can have. Not only the impact they can have on the decisions they make, but the impact they can have on how the community as a whole talks about, perceives, and treats public education and the public educators that are employed to do that work. And the way you all talk about our teachers and the way you all support our teachers and direct them in the right direction. It's more than just the decisions we make, it's how people view public education as a whole. And so kind of an interesting concept to make sure we keep in the back of our minds. It's not just 7 people talking to each other. It's 7 people who are setting the tone for what education is in our community. And it's a big responsibility, and I appreciate all you guys do. And the time you put in, whether it's every other Tuesday or on a weekend at a conference, or the people calling you and emailing you and the conversations we have on the side, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate your involvement. And then I also want to recognize that we did have our first mental health seminar, the social media protecting your child. I call it a seminar, it's a webinar. And thanks to Kayla and Cassie and the people from the Cook Center who were involved in putting that together and making sure it went through for us. We had a lot of registrations, plenty of people who attended, and we'll make sure that will be available or is available on our website, Kayla. It's available. Okay, so the recording of that is available, and for those who weren't able to, that's one of the benefits of registering for that webinar. Even if you like, you could look at your calendar and be like, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to make it. You register anyway, and they send you notifications, they send you a recording. I think Brooke said she fell in that bucket. She really wanted to be there, but couldn't, but was able to view it pretty immediately after. And I saw several of you in the session. I was there as well, and I appreciate your involvement in being there. We look forward to having future dates for those. I think the next one coming up is it January? Yep, we got one coming up in January. So,
Quick question.
yeah.
So how often are we gonna have those?
We will have 3 more, or 4 more. Sorry, 4 more. January, February, March, April. Yep.
And I don't know if I'm gonna request this. Is there a way that after each of those, we can get the number of people that registered and the number of people that were
Yes.
online?
Yep.
Didn't we get 10 of those?
It's 10 sessions, 5 in English, 5 in Spanish. So 10 total. Yeah. And yeah, just gonna call it good. Be done for the day.
All righty, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Comments or questions back for CJ? All right, then we will move into 6.01, approval of the accounts payable.
Move to approve the accounts payable.
Second.
Comments, questions, and or disclosures?
I have to disclose that I have a family member that works in one of these companies, so I'm abstaining from voting.
And I'm going to disclose that I have a family member that works for Wells Rural Electric, but I will not be abstaining from voting.
Terrific. Anything else? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes. 7.01 is time for the public again with the previous admonition. Any public comment? Perfect. Seeing none, then we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening and safe travels home.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.